Okay, go ahead.
So, no, we're going to see. The next Mishnah is going to give us a sheet of Rav Meir, who is Machmir. So, who saw Rav Meir to say for Rav Meir? Reish Nami Rav Meir. But Velohi, say for Rav Meir, Reish Rabban. That really is a machlokas between Rabban and Rav Meir regarding this issue, where one is more Machmir, one is more Mekel. So, the Mishnah, we said you can stand inside Rishus HaYochid and move something Rishus HaRabim as long as you don't move it Arba Amos. Ha'hoitzi chayiv, implying that if you did move it Arba Amos, you're chayiv. Even though what if he moves it with above 10 tfachim above the Rishus HaRabim? We see that moving it in the Makam Tur doesn't make a difference. So we go after Basar Hanach V'Akir. We care where is the item at point A and point B. If it was moved, we don't care through what path it went, like we had before tonight. Lema Mesaila LeRava, which we quoted before. Damer Rava, Hamaver Chayfetz Metchilas Arba L'Soif Arba V'Avir Derech Halav Chayiv. That we don't care that the thing was moved the whole way above 10 tfachim of the ground and it was in a Makam Tur, because we care where it ended up. So is our Mishnah a disproof of Rava? Miktani im hotzi chayim chates. Maybe Dilma im hotzi potter of alosr. Maybe it means it's just a rabbinic issue, but not a chiyuv chates. So it's not a riot to Rava. Ikadiyami, other people learn hahotzi, but if you moved it more than Arba Am, it's potter of alosr. Leimate tiyuf to the Rava, the Amar Rava, Hamar mitchilas Arba l'soif Arba v'ir derech halav chayiv. So our Mishnah is not a raya either for or against Rav. We paskin like Rava. That you're not that if you move something above 10 tfachim in the Rishus HaRabim, but in the end it started off within 10 tfachim, and it ended up moving Dalad Amis, and at the end of and B is within 10 tfachim, you're chayiv, even though it went through a Makam Tur. As we know, we only pass Abai and Rava have over 350 machloiksim. We always paskin like Rava, except 6 places Yal Kagam, we paskin like Abai. Okay. Then it says, Lo yaman adam Rishus HaYachid. You cannot stand in the Rishus HaYachid and urinate outside. Am Rav Yosef Hishkin v'Rav Chayv Chatas. If you did so, you're Chayv Chatas. If you either urinated or you spit, you're Chayv Chatas. Now here's the issue. So we learned early on in Masechta Shabbos that in order to be chayiv for hotzah, the item that you move has to start from a makom chashuv. It has to be at least daled by daled tfachim, and your bladder is not daled by daled tfachim. So how can you say that you're chayiv achatis if the urine moved from your bladder to the outside? It started off from a place that's not daled al daled. That's the Gemara's kasha. So the Gemara says, "Machshavtom yeshavi le'makom." You need to get rid of the urine. Rashi says, "Shutzach lekach." Mashv le'hotzah chashuva. Therefore, it's considered a hotzah chashuva. The ilote mahachi, and I'll prove you that. Hadam arav zark v'nach b'fi hakelim. I throw a frisbee on Shabbos in the Rishus HaRabim, and because I'm playing with my dog, and the dog jumps and catches it in his mouth, I'm chayiv for transferring Daled Amos Rishus HaRabim. Or let's say I took something that I wanted to burn and I threw it and it landed into a furnace. Let's say the opening of the furnace is very small. Chayev chatas. So these are also examples where it landed in a place that was not daled al daled. Yeah, but I wanted it to land in my dog's mouth or into the furnace. So my machshava made it an important makom. Hachanami, transferring my urine from the bladder to the outside, I gave it chashivas. Machshava mishavile makom. Boy Rava. It goes into even further detail. Hu b'shus hayachid upi ama b'shus harabi ma'al. You are standing in the rishus hayachid, but your male organ, through which the urine comes out of, is outside in the rishus harabi. So the urine starts in the bladder. That's the makom akira. Or do we view it as when it leaves your body? Now it left your body in the Rishus Harabim. So maybe it went from Rishus Harabim to Rishus Harabim. And maybe I'm not motzi from Rishus Hayach to Rishus Harabim. Teiku. Amazing dialogue here. V'chein lo yaruk. You also shouldn't spit. That means saliva that has gathered in your mouth has basically separated from your body to become like a mosui. It's now a burden. It's something that you're carrying. It's not part of your, like for example, the urine in your bladder. So when I walk, why don't they ask, the urine in the bladder, when I walk in the Rishus Harabim, I'm transferring it? No, because it's part of my body. But they're seeing saliva different. That once saliva forms, and I've got enough saliva in my mouth to spit out, so that's as if now I picked something up and I'm carrying it. And I better get rid of it before I carry it, Dalad Amos B'Shus Harabim. Or if I have saliva in my mouth and I go from Rishus Hayach to Rishus Harabim, I'm going to be Chayev Achatas. Now, Gemara says, Afal Gav Hafich Ba. Now, a person gets saliva in his mouth, but then you sort of swirl it around in your mouth. So there's two stages. It forms and then you swirl it. So the Gemara says, am I chayev? And the saliva is something independent even before I swirled it in my mouth? I'll prove to you, no, that you need swirling, but not. You're eating a fig and you haven't washed your hands until it's yadayim. There was a rock in your mouth. You put your hand into your mouth to take the rock out, and meanwhile you touched the fig. So remember, food has to be machshel makabel tum. It has to become moist. So Rav Meir says matame, the saliva already was machshel the fig in my mouth to be makabel tuma. But Rabbi Yossi mataher, because spit in your mouth is not considered a mashke for achsharas meichel tuma, unless it actually leaves my mouth. Rabbi Yehuda Omer gives a third shita. Hipichba, if I allow the saliva to gather in my mouth, and then I had swirled it in my mouth, then it becomes as if I spit it out. And it's now an independent thing, and it can be machsher like a mashke, and therefore the fig is tummy. Lo hipichba, but if I did not swirl it in my mouth, it just sort of gathered, then it's not a mashke yet, and therefore it's not independent. It's like my urine. And therefore the fig remains tar because it's not a mashke. So the Gemara wants to say how Rabbi Yehuda in the Mishnah seems to suggest that you don't need swirling, it's already chayiv. In this Mishnah, Rabbi Yehuda seems to suggest that you need to swirl it. On Rav Yechon Muchlefes Hashita. And Rabbi Yehuda in time changed his mind. And that later on, he said that you gotta swirl it. Reish Lakish Amar Lo'elam Lo Tachlit. No, you don't have to say that Rabbi Yehuda changed his mind. Hachad Mayaskina, we're not talking about saliva, we're talking about kicho. Kicho is like phlegm, his sputum. Vatanya. Vatanya. It's not about talking about his phlegm. Rabbi Yehuda Amar kicho v'nitlash. If you have sputum brought up and then you swirled it in your mouth, you shouldn't walk down until you spit it out. My lav roik v'nitlash. Is kicho, does that imply a saliva? Lo kicho v'nitlash. It doesn't mean saliva, it means the sputum. So you see clearly, we bring a baraisa that initially that you need saliva and then you need to swirl it. So we say muchlefes hashita that initially Rabbi Yehuda in our Mishnah by Shabbos said you can't walk even if it just forms in your mouth. Later on, he changed his shita to say that you have to swirl it. Amrish Lakish, kiach b'fnei Rabbi chayv misa. Somebody spits his phlegm out in front of his Rebbe, he's chayv misa. Shenemar kol mesanai ahavu maves. Whoever hates me, and if you spit in front of your Rebbe, it's as if you show you hate Hashem, then you love death. Al tikra lemesanai ela lemasniyoi. People who are made to hate me because they see the bizoyon that a Talmud has for his Rebbe. So the Gemara says, what do you mean? It's like you sneeze, you can't hold it back. What are you supposed to do? So kiach v'rach kamina, meaning he brought it up and then he spit it out. He could have swallowed it. He could have left the Rebbe. We're talking about he did it in a way that he could have prevented the embarrassment. Mishnah. Let's say there's a water fountain right outside your house. You cannot stand in the Rishus HaYachid and stick your head out to drink in the Rishus HaRabbi. And vice versa. Rishus HaRabbi v'yishta Rishus HaYachid. If you bring your head and the majority of your body out into the Rishus HaRabbi, then you can do it. V'chein b'gas, the same din by a wine press. Gemara, we'll see what we're talking about. Again, the Gemara says, Reisha Rabbanan, the Sefer of Meir. So we're going to see later on, the next Mishnah, that Rav Meir is Machmir. So are we having a steer between Rabbanan and Rav Meir? On Rav Yosef, B'chafetzim sotzrichin lo, v'divrei hakol. That means if he's going to go get things that he wants, his own items, then he's not allowed to do it. Because then he's going to bring it from the Rishus HaRabbi to Rishus HaYachid. What about Carmelis? What if one of the Rishtriyos was a Carmelis? Amrabaya he. It's the same din. You're not allowed to stand in one Rishus and and lean over and get something in the other Rishus. Amrava, I understand. A Carmelis Bechlal is a Gzeira. He goof a Gzeira, not Nekim, Niks a Gzeira. So Amra Abaya Mino Amina Law Miditani V'chein Bagas. We're talking about a wine press. And a wine press is not a Rishus HaYachid, it's a Carmelis, because people use it. And you see that they answered in our Mishnah also to do it by a gossip. So the Abaye says, I have a proof. The Rava says, what are you talking about? It's the whole Indian of gas has nothing to do with transferring on Shabbos. It's Linyan Meiser. V'chein Rav Sheish is v'chein begas Linyan Meiser. What's this? This not shoysen alagas. So we know that you got to give Meisers on produce before you eat it, but that's only if you're going to have a sudas kavua. If you're out in the field and you're picking an apple just to snack on it, you don't have to give trumas and maestras. So he says, this not choice gas. When you're in the wine press, where it's you're just tasting it. Bein b'cham and bein b'tzoyin and upater the Rab Meir. Whether it's cold, whether it's hot, you don't have to give meiser because only achilas kva requires that. As a Reb Tzadok Mechayev, he says you have to do it anyways. Because you're not going to do it without diluting the wine with water. So the diluting wine with water makes it like a kva. The Chachamim, they split the difference. Alachamin chayev. Because if it's hot, you can't pour it back. So you made it like a kva. Alatzoinen, you could pour it back. You could pour it back even if you diluted it. So that's a siman that it's a temporary kind of eating. Now, in the similar construct, koilet adam in a maschela is like a gutter that's draining water from your roof. So you can stick your mouth by the gutter if it was lamata masar tfachim, as long as it's within 10 tfachim of the ground. You're standing just a rabbim. And it's within the Tchum Rishus HaRabim. You're in the Rishus HaRabim, and you're drinking the water Rishus HaRabim. So it's not a problem. From the pipes that end up draining into the gutter, see, by the gutter it sort of gathers, but by the pipe, I guess it's not gathering. So coil it in. So you can do it from afar. Of a mitzarei flow. If you to bring your mouth there, or to bring a kli there, that you're not allowed to do. My time. Because this is 3 tfachim close to the roof, so you use lavud. And then you're transferring from Rishus HaYachid to Rishus HaRabim. You can say Rishus HaYachid, you can raise your hands above Asar Tfachim, as long as it's within 3 Tfachim of the roof, the koile, because you're basically going from Rishus HaYachid. Uvavachla Yitzar if you can't gather it. Tanya Yidich, Lo Yamad Adam Rishus HaYachid, and be a Yodel L'malam Asar Tfachim, the Tfachim Mishlosh Samach L'gad Yitzar, and what koile do the show say? But if you're not gathering it, then it's permitted. Then it says, when it's flowing in the pipes, you can do it no matter what. But if the pipes are 4x4 wide, they should come out to Rishus L'Rishus, then it looks too much like going from Rishus HaYachid to a Carmelis or vice versa. Mishnah. Bor Rishus HaRabim. You have a pit in Rishus HaRabim with water. And the rim, the chulyaso gavos are tfachim. Around it is a 10 tfachim high enclosure. And this bore is underneath your window. Chalon shal gabav mamalan men b'Shabbos. So remember, we know a Rishus HaYachid goes up to Shamayim. So I can lean over my window, which is a Rishus HaYachid, and gather water from that bore because it's also Rishus HaYachid. Because it's got 10 tfachim around it. Ashpa b'Rishus HaRabim gavos ar tfachim. If I have a garbage dump, chalon shal gabi shaklos achamayim b'Shabbos. I can dump waste from my house via a window that overhangs it. Because I'm going for Rishus HaYachid to Rishus HaYachid. So b'may askinon, what are we talking about? Ilena the smucha. If the bore is right next to the window, what do I need the chul yasara? If it's within, for example, 4 tefachim of my house, then the Rishus Harabim, people are not going to walk there. So how can you call it Rishus Harabim? So we're talking about a bore that's at least arba tefachim away from the wall. So it's mamish in the Rishus Harabim. So I need the walls around the bore to make it a Rishus Hayot. The time of the chul yasara, that's only because it's got walls around it, asara. If it wasn't for that, then the bore would have to be assumed to be, I'm going from Rishus HaYachid to Rishus HaYachid derech Rishus HaRabim. And that would be problematic. Rav Yochanan Amar, Afilu Tema B'Smucha. No, we're talking about the bores even within 4 tefachim of my house. What's the chiddush then? Akamashlan, the bore v'chul yosem mitzaref l'asar. We have to be told halacha that the bore and the chulya, let's say the bore is 5 and the chulya is 5, it's mitzaref l'asar. Then ashpa b'shus harabim. Same thing about a garbage dump. The loy chashinon shema tinatzel ashpa, but maybe eventually the city will clean up the ashpa. And then I will be so used to transferring things from my house there, I'll end up transferring things into Mamish Rishus Harabim. And I'll show you an example where the Gemara was worried about that. Ravin Baravada, there was a mavui that one end of it was in the water, the other ended up was a dump. He didn't give a heter, didn't give an isser. He was concerned about giving a heter to use the mavui, that maybe these things would go away. The public would clean up the ashpa, the water would dry up, and you'd have a mavui more foolish instead of a closed off mavui. He didn't want to give an isser because right now there are 4-way mechitzos. So how come we're not choishish in our Mishnah shema tinotel ashpa loikasha hadiyachid adarabim? Meaning, if it belongs to a private individual, then I'm concerned the private individual will clean it up and it will change. But if it belongs to a rabbim, it's going to remain a public dump where we don't have to be. So our Mishnah is talking about a public one. Okay. So we did what we needed to do. We will learn Daf Kuf starting from the Mishnah. We will not learn tomorrow, except we're going to learn